Take your position. The show is about to start.
Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome to On Screen, where we discuss all things cinema all the time. Here's your hosts.
the award goes to
Joe Brunett, Joe Cuffney, and Jesse Reichenstein. Lights, camera, action.
All right, let's talk about the film Chef.
Wow, am I feeling good, man? Let me say this.
This is madness, huh?
There's carne asada. Check it out.
Wow.
Chef Big Dog up all night cooking.
Shut up and taste this, a mousse douche. Come here, guy. Look at that.
You like it?
Yeah.
We're gonna cook like this.
We're being reviewed by the most important critic in the city.
Now suddenly you're going to be an artist. Well, be an artist on your own time. It's my restaurant.
The kitchen is my domain. That was our deal.
The deal is now changed. Either you stay or you go.
So you're threatening to fire me now?
No, I'm telling what I'm prepared to do if you don't cook my menu.
It's up. The review's out. His dramatic weight gain can only be explained by the fact that he must be eating all the food sent back to the kitchen.
You didn't like what they wrote about you?
I don't like it either.
Who cares?
I do, because I could have done better. I should have cooked food that I was gonna cook. There are chefs that cook food that they believe in, and people will try because they're open to a new experience, and they'll end up liking it.
Hey, what are you doing? Don't do it. What are you writing?
Chef, that's not a good
Listen, just listen. I won't send it until we all say it's okay. Why don't you come by again tonight? I got a whole new menu just for you, asshole.
Oh, no.
That's not good.
Give me the phone. Give me the phone.
Don't do it. That's out there now, bro.
It happens.
Why would you do
You
that?
can't take that back.
Dad, did you post anything since last night?
You gotta be kidding me.
Wow.
You realize how many people have read this?
You're trending, bro.
You're never going to be happy cooking for someone else.
Food truck's a great idea. We're talking about a white-on-white 88 Chevy Grumman food truck. It's a blank canvas for your dreams. I'm gonna have him pull it around.
Thank you.
Don't thank me till you see it.
So what are you gonna do?
You're gonna laugh.
Tony, Carl's got a taco truck.
For real?
I was so jealous when I heard your voice. I was like, that's what I want to do.
I get to touch people's lives with what I do, and I love it. And I want to share this with you.
What are you doing?
Dude, I'm putting a little cornstarch on my huevos, man. It's too humid down here.
Dad, wake up. Mom's putting cornstarch on his balls.
Want some?
It's like baby powder.
It's nice, right?
Nice.
Gente de zona. Una vez más.
Jon Favreau. He wrote, starred, and directed. Correct.
Wrote and
produced,
and
probably
directed. Yeah,
He did it all. I've seen this before. It was a while ago. I wasn't super familiar with it. Like I saw it on Netflix, when it came out, I think in 2014. I was like, oh, this is good. But I'm glad you picked this one. It's been a while, and yeah, this is you, Jesse. You picked this one. You've seen this, right?
Yeah. It's leaving Netflix at the end of the month, I've learned. So go watch it
or go buy it.
You can. Or go buy it. You could. It's probably just going to pop up somewhere else or back on Netflix soon, I'm assuming. I don't know how that works, but this was on my list of like movies to pick at some point. I love Jon Favreau.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that guy does. Most of what I know. And what movie is he in as the actor that when he started as an actor?
Oh, Swingers.
Swinger, is that it? Okay.
He's in Swing. I don't know if that's like his start, but he's in Friends too. Like he plays Monica's boyfriend for a hot second for a couple episodes.
Oh, yeah.
He's like the UFC champion in the show. It's really funny.
Yeah,
he was like the rich wrestler.
He looks weird younger. Like he looks really weird. I like him like how he looks now, or Chef, I guess, is kind of like what I picture him looking like.
Yeah, that's what I picture. And like, I always think of him as a director. And I remember the first time I found out he started as an actor. I'm trying to remember in what I saw that in. And I was like, oh, well, like weird. But when this came out, I saw this in theaters. I feel like this was also like, Yeah.
You saw this in theaters?
I didn't know it was in theaters.
Yeah, I saw it at the Little in Rochester.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it was like kind of during the time that I was getting really into cooking too. So it was like really into it. And then I like had it's a movie like that probably first year or two it was out. I watched tons of times. Like it was a movie I always threw on because I really loved it. But I haven't seen it in years now.
I will say, and I totally was thinking about that when I watched this. I was like, Jesse probably loves this because of the cooking part, but like it made me want to cook, and I never cook.
Yeah,
totally. Right? It's like the coolest. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's like I think some people have probably described it as like a food porn movie, but like all the like shots and like the famous one is like the grilled cheese when he is making like the grilled cheese on the griddle, you know, and like really carefully. And I remember watching like a behind the scenes once with his like friend Roy Choi, who's a Korean chef who is like known. He started this really famous food truck in LA called Koji. That's like a Korean Mexican taco truck. But he is like credited for like starting this like gourmet food truck trend kind of deal.
So this is based on a true story.
Well, it's not based on him, but Roy Choi like was on set and like taught Jon Favreau how to cook in like the behind the scenes, like in the grilled cheese, you know, he's showing him exactly like how to do everything. And like there's a Netflix show called The Chef Show that is Jon Favreau and Roy Choi. And there's like a few episodes and it's like on cooking and stuff. That's really interesting too. Yeah. Super like highly recommend that too.
I'm really happy that guy started that trend. Because I love food trucks.
Right? I will say Jon Favreau was perfect for this role. I mean, he looked like he knew what he was doing. So
yeah, it was like a great character. I mean, other than
the cast,
I feel like Scarlett Johansson's just, I feel like a lot of times a weird character. Like she just never feels like she really fits in, you know, like you're like, this just doesn't feel as like real as everything. I don't know.
It was like an unnecessary romance thrown in there. Like, why was that? Why was she in there? There was no purpose for her.
I just love to like his wife or ex-wife was like Sofia Vergara, and like, I mean, also obviously because Jon Favreau with like Iron Man and like was like so Robert Downey Jr. But I think like when he went to make this movie, this was like his, you know, like pet project. Like it was from him finally, and so I think he basically called all these huge names that he knew from directing and kind of was like, will you be in my movie?
I mean,
so like the cast is insane.
Yeah. I think what was I gonna say? No, the cast is so good. And John Leguizamo, how do you say it?
John Leguizamo. I was just thinking in my head before you said it, like trying to pronounce it in my head. And then I feel like I got it. I was like, oh, that's it. And then you said something out loud and I'm like, oh, I have no clue anymore.
I only think of him from Super Mario Brothers movie, the Super Mario Brothers movie, because he plays Luigi.
Name? Mario. Last name? Mario. Okay, what's your name?
Luigi.
Luigi?
No, Luigi Mario.
Okay, look, how many Marios are there between the two of you?
There's three. There's Mario, and Luigi Mario.
Mike! Up these Marios around the side.
Interesting. He's really cool.
I like him a lot. He's really good too.
Yeah, I think he did like a one-man show, I think, recently in the past few years.
Oh, that's cool.
It might have on Netflix. I think he's supposedly, anytime we hear stories, people like love him. He seems like a really cool guy.
I mean, he works with a lot of people in Hollywood, so I assume people like him.
He's great. And then I also love that. Is that Bobby Carnival? The guy who plays Tony, the other like chef who's like drunk in his car.
I can pull.
He's like he looks different in this because of his hair, but he's in so many like things as kind of like
Bobby. Bobby Cannavale.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I was wondering who that was too. Actually. Oh my gosh,
because he's in a lot of things.
I forgot Dustin Hoffman. Yeah,
he's like the restaurant owner. It's a crazy.
And Oliver Platt, like what? I always get him in what's it called? What's the guy's name? Oliver Platt and Patton Oswalt. I always get them mixed up.
Oh,
They kind of look similar. But no, this is such a good movie though. This is just like a fun movie that like is always kind of like, I really want to show Jojo this because I feel like she'd really dig it. It's kind of like
hasn't
quick.
seen this.
She hasn't seen it. It's like a quick paced movie. And like a lot of times I'm not huge into like cooking things like shows or anything, but like if it's done like this with like some kind of story, well, I guess Jon Favreau too, because he makes the whole movie. But I don't know. It was just fun. I like this movie. It's good.
I was shocked at how good it still was. Like I was a little worried that I was going to go through it and be like, oh, it's not as good. But like right off the bat, it's also really funny. Like there's some really funny parts in it.
I will say like it was funny to see the old social media platforms, like how Twitter looked and Instagram looked. Like
it was only 2014.
I know. Well, I was going to ask you guys if you like how they like when movies put tweets in like
Joe's least favorite thing in the world.
I hate that so much. When someone's texting and it just pops up, I'm like, come on, just like show the phone or just don't text. Just call them.
Yeah.
Joe, what did you think? I feel like we've been whiling off track over here.
No, I mean, I agree with most of what you guys said. I feel like it was just a really like usually I don't like. Sometimes I think happy movies are a little overdone, but this was like a really happy movie. It like just made me happy. It made me want to cook. Yeah, sometimes like when movies are like too, they make you feel too good. Like I feel weird about that. If that makes sense.
When like, it's like cheesy, mushy, just
like I don't like the Hallmark like, movies, but like this was just like it was real, but it was happy. And so I had a great time watching it. I didn't really know what to expect, but I loved it.
Yeah.
Was this your first time seeing it too?
Yeah, I hadn't seen this before.
Cool.
This is one I always remember. Like I see like the poster on Netflix. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good movie. Like Chef, that always just sticks out. But I always forget like it actually is a solid movie. And you're right. I'm glad I kind of revisited it because when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is good, but I didn't know how it was going to hold up. But it totally holds up, even with the old social media. Speaking of like social media stuff, I'm always curious on how they handle that in movies and shows because sometimes it's like, sometimes I guess it's budgetary reasons and licensing and all that, but like sometimes like, I think of just like iCarly, for example, where they have like their own brand of like computers, like
use like
Apple,
pair.
It's like a pair, but like I wonder how those rights are kind of like divvied up. Like I don't know how some movies get it and how some don't, because like some movies like use different like interfaces and stuff, but this like uses Twitter. Like it's almost like sponsored, but obviously it probably wasn't. I mean, maybe it was. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how if there's like rights work anymore, but I know part of Bo Burnham talked a lot about it when he shot 8th Grade because he was very big on using the real apps, because I think a lot of movies will put everything in post on the screens.
Yeah.
And to Bo though, he was like, they made all real Instagram accounts. They interacted it in real time. He was like, I mean, you'll notice it more in 8th Grade, but like he was like, when the glow of your screen has to be real, like you can tell in movies when it's not the glow of the screen and what they're looking at and stuff. And like, so I know some people like, him really went to the extent of like doing it in real time, but I also know like totally not a movie, but like Jimmy Tatro with like the Real Bros of Simi Valley, that like internet series, they made like all real accounts and like comments and everything too. But I think it's like a logistical nightmare for most people on sets to manage like accounts in private and then get in all work. So I think it's like out of laziness also.
Right.
You just do post.
Which is also interesting though, because like, I don't know if it's so lazy because you literally have to create that all. You have to get a designer and you have to do all these graphics and like, that's a lot of work in post-production.
Well, yeah, not lazy. It's just like, they don't have to worry about it while they're shooting. They're like, we'll deal with it later. We'll do it in post.
Dude, that is an editor's worst nightmare. We'll fix it in post. That is literally
my favorite saying of all time.
I can't tell you how many times I've been on like a set where like, oh, we'll just fix it in post. I'm like, I'm the one doing the post. I'm not doing this. No. But yeah, I think that was super, super fascinating.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the two at the beginning when I was laughing really hard at, because I feel like right out the gate, there was a few things that happened that I was just like, it was a nice, like right off the gate. Oh, right. This is actually funny.
I want to say, while you think about it, I want to say, I feel like I get a little Bo Burnham vibes from Jon Favreau, like how he directs and like kind of produces his stuff. Like I feel like the attention to detail is so key. Like he even had the tattoos. I thought that was super cool. Like just like little things here and there that like make him seem like a chef. Like I 100% was in that he was a chef. Like it made me believe that he was a chef.
I love that comparison because I feel like when people are actually like just really into their craft, like Bo Burnham is, or like Jon Favreau is, like I feel like it really shines through, especially when they're actually acting in it, because I think they just care that much more.
100%.
I think it shows 1,000%.
Totally. And then like I think it's fascinating with Jon Favreau, especially like, he does, Elf, Iron Man, like Mandalorian, like he does everything. Jungle Book. Yeah. Everything. And it's all good. It's all solid content. I will say my favorite moment in this movie was the 2 seconds of the movie theater when they were watching Iron Man.
Oh.
Well, you didn't see the movie, but you just heard the noise that it makes when he shoots the little laser. And I was like, that's such a fun, like little callback just to his movie. And Robert Downey Jr., of course. But
who's such an insane character.
I know. For him. It's weird to see him like that.
The kid was great too, though.
It was really good. I really enjoyed their storyline. I liked the emotion. They actually did that well, because I was like, sometimes that can get like cheesy, like, oh, my dad's not around, blah, but I actually really enjoyed that part of the movie.
Yeah, it was good that it was like kind of like what Joe was saying earlier, but like it was like a happy feel good, but also like he still was flawed through the whole thing and was very much like, like even at the end after everything went so good, and he was like sitting there telling the kid like, this, it's gonna go back to normal, we can't do this kind of thing, and you're just like, oh man, come on, this is how it's gonna end. Yeah, I mean, obviously that doesn't kind of, but you still have that flaw like through the whole thing. It's not just to feel good.
I think that's part of it, because like I think I had a hard time at first knowing if this story was more about like the father-son relationship there, or if it was more about just like him finding happiness in cooking again. And like I feel like it was kind of both, but like for a while I was like, I thought it kind of morphed from like his own happiness to like getting to spend time with his son kind of. And that's where I was kind of like, initially I was like, is this going to go like way too happy, feel good? But like, I think it was the perfect amount. Cause you're right. Like it was still real, where it didn't like make me want to vomit because it's just like unrealistically happy. But like, I don't know. I thought it was great. That little side story between him and his son. Or I guess maybe not a side story, but
I do like that the son was, other than the graphics of the social media part, I did think that part was like cool, kind of that like he was like doing all of it without them knowing, and they like played the like dumb, like especially at that time, like 2014, obviously a lot more like adults are now on social media, but like like setting up the Twitter in his apartment, like that. I love that, and he's like in the morning when the kid checks and he's like, oh no, I didn't post anything, I just sent a private message to a guy. And he's like, no, you didn't. And he's like, yeah, you sent me a message and I hit reply. And so I sent him a message back, like
it's so real. Like it felt so real. And I'm also going to compare him to like Jon Favreau. I'm going to compare him to like Mark Duplass, I feel like, because it felt like an indie film, but it was like done well. Like that's what the Duplass brothers do well, is low budget movies, but they look and sound good. But they're also almost like mumblecore-ish, which I could see like this being a lot of improv and not super scripted, just because I feel like, I don't know, it's a hard one to script, I guess. But yeah, I love the I love the fact that they kind of, it was almost like a fuck you to critics, kind of like, where it was like, because critics can get, I do not like critics myself. Like they're just bashing people's work. Yeah. And I'm like, people are just trying. Like obviously everyone's critics for something. You got to compare, you got to like rate things, you got to, give your opinions. But I try not to like bash anything, because like people put their heart, all their work and time into something.
Yeah, there's a really interesting, I'll send it to you though, in terms of critics. Well, one, because a lot of stuff now is coming up with like Dave Chappelle, the whole thing, and like the Hannah Gadsby thing, and like talking about like you cannot like other people's work, but you can still understand the value or like that it's good, it's just not for you. And there's a lot of things like with Norm Macdonald too, with like insiders liking movies versus outsiders and this whole thing. But there's this podcast with Mark Maron, the WTF podcast, Mark Maron, and who he has A.O. Scott, I think his name is, who's like a critic for the New York Times, a very big critic, and they talk about like being a critic and that whole like thing, you know. And Mark obviously like as like an artist is kind of like has like a negative feeling towards critics and stuff, but it's a really cool conversation. But I'll send you the link to that because it is a really interesting thing, right? That like critics, and a lot of them don't have, I don't know, it's not like they were a famous chef for 40 years and then became a critic, you know.
Right,
like
that's my
they
problem.
just like became a critic kind of deal.
If they were, I wouldn't have as big of an issue, but like a lot of movie critics too, like they've never made anything ever in their entire life, and everything is so opinions. Everything's all opinions.
It's just an opinion. That's all.
Everything's like eating a food. Like, what if I don't like? What if this person's like, this is the best? You know, I don't know. This is the best.
Someone loves
steak.
cilantro and someone hates cilantro.
Exactly. It could be the best thing ever, but I don't like what they're making. Like, it doesn't make it bad. It's just I don't like it.
But that's right. And it's an interesting time for like criticism with like the internet and stuff, because it feels like critics are still so old school. But there's also like is always in culture like tastemakers and people who like basically like identify cool stuff, you know, and then people follow them because they're able to like identify that in the raw sense, you know. But a lot of that now is like people have their own profiles, but critics feels like such an old school, like you have the column in the Los Angeles Times and you're a critic.
You have like the
and every week
and
every week you like come out and it's like, ooh, what are they gonna say about this movie kind of deal.
Isn't that funny? That's so interesting. Like, and then like who started like paying attention to these reviews? Like, who's the first person who's like, oh yeah, you're right, you know what, you are right, you're gonna be the top review critic person. Part of me likes reviews, not as much critics, because I like user reviews personally. Like, I think my problem with like Rotten Tomatoes is a lot of it's based on critic reviews, but IMDb is kind of like a mixture of, well, obviously they both have user reviews, but I feel like IMDb is more like they include their user reviews more, I feel like, when they kind of average the score together, which I kind of appreciate, because I rather, you know, like if I know someone's taste or something, is like, especially in Shudder, like I'll go into a movie and I can, you know, it's so specific, like it's all horror movies, so it's like these people like actually know what they're kind of talking about with horror. So if there's a general consensus where it's not very good, I probably won't watch it. But so there's sometimes where their reviews or critics when I'm like, okay, I'll listen to you, but it's not super often.
Do you always look at the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes over the tomato meter?
Do you want to hear something crazy? I've never been on Rotten Tomatoes.
But okay, I mean, that is crazy.
I've never searched. I've never been on it.
But the problem now is that that shit is all over the place. Like, you don't even nowadays, you don't even have to go to Rotten Tomatoes to see the score. It's just like linked all the time. You Google a movie and like they pops up in the corner.
Right.
Kind of deal.
Well, and even on like previews and trailers, it's like 90% in Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, right.
It's like some status thing. I don't know. That to me doesn't work like for marketing. It's like some movies get on 90% and they're not good. You know, like for example, there's like horror movies that get like a 4 on IMDb, but they're fantastic. I don't know. I have this whole.
Yeah, let's look up the history of Rotten Tomatoes, but
I'd be curious.
That'd be interesting.
Also, okay, you're a sort of site called Rotten Tomatoes. I feel like you're just looking for bad reviews.
You're right.
Yeah, that is true. Like,
come on.
Why the negativity, right?
That's what I'm saying.
It's the rotten, man, because you don't throw them.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's all the tomatoes you didn't throw on stage, and now they've rotted.
Or it's the ones you have thrown on stage and that are rotted.
They're rotted, yeah.
There's different ways.
Figure it out.
We should hit up Rotten Tomatoes, like not the cast. The
cast.
The cast of Rotten Tomatoes. That actually be an interesting documentary, like about the start of Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb.
All right, let's produce it. Greenlit.
I'm down.
Jon Favreau, I know you're listening. We got your next big hit.
Yeah, no. This is solid though. I going back to the movie. This is pretty good. I loved when they were drinking beer and then he let his kid try it and he says, tastes like piss, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's literally what you say. Like when you tell someone like, what does beer taste like? You're like, it doesn't taste very good.
He's like, remember this when your friends offer you beer. Like,
right. Yeah. Oh, and the cop scene. I couldn't tell if was that supposed to be funny?
I think so. That was Russell Peters, I'm pretty sure, who's a comedian who plays the cop. who I didn't realize last time.
Like he acted like he was supposed to be funny. So I assumed,
that went on entirely too long.
Well, I loved that it kept going, because I remember like there was parts in the movie like this that I like remembered different, or like thought something different happened, or I thought like I was like, oh right, the cop comes, and then I feel like he like takes a photo, and then the party happens again. You know, like the cop lets him, but it didn't really do that, and it went longer. And there was like the food critic scene where he ran in. You know, and crumbles like he's like, it's molten. You don't undercook it. You put the molten cube in there until it's soft, you know, and he's like crumbling it. Kissing like, you asshole, and like crumbles it into his like lap. And like that, you know, I always like, for some reason when he was cooking, I was like, oh, I feel like he like brings in the food he cooked and serves him the food, you know, like random things I was just like making up in my head of like, I think that's what happens. But the cop was a big one. But there were certain parts like the cop that I do love though when comedic things go on too long.
I thought it'd be that entire scene, the whole cop scene. I was like,
yeah, because I was gonna say I actually loved that, and there were so many parts in this movie that I actually wish were slightly longer. I think it was probably the right call not to make them slightly longer, but there were certain parts where I'm like, oh, I would have liked an extra 2 minutes here. Like this is fun.
That would make me so uncomfortable. That would take me out of the movie.
Oh, it's the best. And Russell Peters, that comedian, is hilarious. So not knowing Russell Peters last time, and then like, you know, when you watch a movie and then you like, there's like a side character, but you know the actor for some reason. Yeah, and then you're like, it just becomes so much better.
Right. No, I get that. That's so true. I think that like, I think I like those parts about this, like you were saying, just because it's so hard to, how do you make a movie about like a chef starting a food truck? Like, I feel like they had to add these little funny parts here and there, which actually worked. I feel like a lot of times they would just throw the stuff together just to like make a story, and it wouldn't make any sense, but it actually made sense, and I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was kind of fun. So
it was great.
It's a solid movie. Like I would recommend this to people.
It made me want. It makes you like want to do like a road trip, or like, and like it makes you. I mean, it makes you want to do everything. You know, it makes you want to cook. It makes you want to like go to a food truck. Makes you want to just do a cross country drive. I love the scene. It was like driving between, maybe when they left Miami or something, and it starts playing Marvin Gaye's Sexual Healing, but with like a brass band.
Yeah.
And like, but like it's playing while like the B-roll is going at first, and you're kind of like, wait, this sounds familiar, but it's a brass version. Which also, but also I was thinking brass. I was like, this sounds so great, but the like brass sounds are very like obnoxious. You know, like squealing sound, but for some reason it's actually, you want to listen to it. I don't know why, but like, then I love that, you know, like that transition, but then I love that it like gets to the car and he's driving and that's what they're listening to, you know, and then they start singing it. Like,
I love instances like that in movies for sure when that happens. Like when the song comes on, but they're actually listening to it or singing it in the movie.
And just like having a good time, you know, like the whole thing is just like they're having a blast. Like, you know, it's just that short little clip that's just like, oh yeah,
totally.
Like that's like the parts where you're like, oh yeah, I want to do like the cross country drive, and you're just like when you're driving between cities and just jamming out.
It's funny. I forgot they were going to New Orleans, and I like when they were pulling up, when they were going to like the city, I thought it was Savannah because it looked just like Savannah. I was like, wait, did they shoot this in Savannah? But it was actually New Orleans. I also read that some of the like the B-roll shots of like the truck just driving, not a lot of them, I don't know how many, but some of them are stock, and there was CGI truck in there.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that was interesting because I bet they didn't want to drive, you know, all the way to New Orleans or something. No, they probably went to New Orleans, but they probably didn't want to drive some of the like the random middle sections. So they probably
like on like the highway bridges and stuff, like those shots.
Yeah,
they're like in a helicopter just to get like a 3-second highway shot.
I did love the music in this. I thought it was very fitting.
Yeah.
Just fun, like just fun music. Miami, I like it. Makes me want to go to Miami.
I could see like when they go to get to Miami and the kids wearing like the like suit and fedora and they go to the show that's just like their grandfather singing and stuff. I'm just like, Joe would be having the time of his life here. Both of you actually would be having, I could see both of you just at a table, just like listening to that music. Just
I love that kind of stuff.
Okay. Just in both your suits. You both have fedoras on for no reason.
I would get a suit like that if we were going to Miami.
Oh, for sure. Now, if you guys could start any food truck, what would you start?
I don't know if this is the one I'd want to start, but I've thought about it for a long time. This is definitely something I've thought about before.
I was gonna say, Joe and I have talked about this, so
I feel like it would be really cool to not in Rochester have a food truck called Plates.
Okay.
So garbage plates. But I also feel like if I had to pick the food that I wanted to eat, I probably wouldn't pick that. But I just think, it would be it's recognizable enough that I think people would like it. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, such a good idea. And because we used to talk about that in Portland, just because they have food carts were huge there. And I feel like once in a while, Joe Cuffney get pretty close to me. Should I quit my job and buy a food cart?
Honestly, sounds pretty fun.
We're this garbage plate one. That's like what, but I feel like that's great. Like in Rochester, we have like Le Petit Poutine, like a poutine truck, and like stuff like that. Not that that's what I would do, but I'm just saying like this like weird, almost niche junk food kind of, I feel like trucks do really well. I think the garbage plate would do well.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I have no clue because I feel like, broad ones you could do really cool things with, but they're not like cool. Like if you did like a pizza truck or like a burger thing, like it's broad enough where you could be doing cool stuff all the time and like switching it up. Like I just love at every place they stop. I love like you just open the door and then they have a chalkboard, and he's just they
that
get
is
to
really
Texas
cool.
And they get that like the barbecue and they're like, Austin Midnights or something, and they're just writing like Cubanos, $7. And I'm like, that would be the cool part if you had something generic enough where you're just like, especially if you're traveling like local stuff and just like making things up and being like,
you should make
this
a menu.
$7.
Yes. You should make a menu.
Yeah, you should. Well, that's
get back
the
into
benefit
the
of having a gourmet chef as a food truck owner.
Have to crank up Jesse's pad again.
Oh yeah,
with a full menu.
Yes, I like that.
I would do a Philly cheesesteak.
Philly cheesesteak.
It's like I know there's one in Portland that I really enjoyed, but I would want it to be like the best Philly cheesesteaks
in Philly, like next to those homes of the Philly cheesesteak. You just pull up a truck, and be like, "All right, guys, mine's better."
I don't think you could. I don't think you can mess with those places. You can do some good Philly cheesesteaks, but they
isn't
got
it
that
like
on
Geno's
lockdown.
and something, and it's like they're like
Geno's
kitty
and
corner
Jimmy's
from each
something?
other.
Jimmy's or I think it's
Jimmy's. But they're like, aren't they like they're like right across the street from each
Yeah.
other? So just pull a truck up in between and be like, I'm also one of the original.
Inserting myself.
Philly Joe steaks.
Philly Joe steak. It's like everyone else's food, but you rename it to Joe. That's all you do. You're just like, it's the Joe burger.
The Joe burger.
A minute.
I mean, do you want me to get into locations? There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I mean, not like a lot of
get
like
into 'em.
specific. I'll just read off the cities because it was kind of we got obviously Miami, New Orleans, Austin, Los Angeles, and that's it. But there's definitely locations in those cities.
French Quarter.
Yeah.
Cafe Du Monde.
Man, I'm hungry now.
I know. I wanted beignets so bad when I was watching this.
That looked good. A coffee and like some beignets. I wish, man. I mean, insane. I was like, we should do like. I want some reason where we can do this trip.
Yeah.
But like, like for content of Chef or something.
We don't need a reason. We can just.
Yeah, we could just. I mean, that would be fun to do that.
Yeah, guys, we're starting to GoFundMe for a onset the Chef show trip
on road.
Huh.
I like that. Yeah.
Maybe we just become food critics.
Yeah, it sounds really.
We just bashed food critics, and we're like, yeah, maybe we should do that.
Maybe we should just do that.
All right, that's easy, right?
I will say it does, like, it makes me want to cook. It makes me also want to like get more into like restaurant culture and like chefs.
Mm-hmm.
And the tip I've heard that I've always actually wanted to do somewhere, like if you really want to get like into a restaurant somewhere, like say you travel to a city a lot or something, or even just home, the play is you go to the restaurant when it's not super busy, like for, like right before service or something, but like when it's calm, and you go and you order a ton of stuff off the menu. Like you just start picking a ton of stuff. And like the chef's probably going to notice because it's not busy enough that like there's a table of one ordering like a ton of different stuff. And they were like, you do that and you leave like a really big tip at the end too. And he was like, you do that like 3 days in a row. And he was like, most likely like the chef will either like notice, or if you ask and it's not busy, you can go back and meet the chef and like tour the kitchen and talk to them. And like the person at the head of the house, or like, if they have like a maitre d' or something, like they'll know you. And they were like, for the rest of your life, you'll just have like such a good relationship with that restaurant kind of deal. That's and hilarious. It was just like such a weird, but like anyone could just like do that if they really wanted to get into like restaurants and chefs, and like having like, the people I feel like who show up to cities and they're like, oh, I got like an inn at this place, we got to go here, and they like actually know you and stuff.
Right. That is interesting. I honestly have no interest in doing that ever. Like the whole chef world to me is just weird. I don't know. I mean, I've met a couple cool chefs, but I don't know. I feel like they're really high in themselves.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
I can't say I know that many chefs, but
some chefs I've met are just like, I don't know. They're nice. They're fine, but they're like nothing compares to what they make ever.
I mean, they're it's truly like in the art world. If
very
like
interesting. Yeah.
A lot of artists are. I would argue it's probably not as bad as stereotypes, but like a lot of artists, I'm sure there's a handful of artists who are like,
oh, totally.
What I touch is it's gold, man.
I mean, that's I guess that's in every form of everything, like directors, painters, everything.
People who care a lot,
which makes sense, I guess.
Go to bat for themselves, I guess.
Yeah. I just think it's kind of funny with food because it's like, it's just eating. Like, I don't know, like you're just eating food. Like you need to eat to survive, but they're making it into this whole like competitive thing for no reason.
Well, that's why arguably you have to eat it. It's part of life. So it's like the experience, man. Like you don't need
that makes sense.
Stuff. But if you get to the top levels too, I think it is like, I mean, there's culture around like in kitchens being problematic, like people yelling and stuff. But
yeah, I know, what the heck is that about?
But I think that's getting better. And I also think like at the top tier of chefs, it also is actually super like collaborative, and they're not as like, because like a lot of chefs, even like at the top level, they do things where they like actually go travel to like another chef's kitchen, in a different country, and they cook there for 3 months, and they like do exchanges, and they like get together and like, because they all have different like cuisines they make and stuff. So like, it's a very like collaborative world of like learning different cuisines and how people's techniques and like building something new together and stuff. So I think too, at the very like top level, like those people actually are like pretty collaborative, and like, that chef world's pretty like a tight community of interesting.
I do appreciate like
people.
Good food that I've eaten, at like solid restaurants. I'm like, oh, this is like a 5-star restaurant or whatever. I'm like, okay, I get it. Like this is good food, but I don't know. I'm just not like that into. I'm like, obviously I love food. It's like one of my favorite things, but like I'm not super picky on it. Like if it's good, it's good. Like I'll eat a $10 burger or a $30 burger. I don't really care. And I don't know. I just don't get the appeal of like wanting to work in a situation where someone's yelling at you for messing up buttering a piece of toast or something. I don't know.
I'm not speaking from experience here, but like I imagine it's a lot less of like Hell's Kitchen than it is just like,
yeah, probably
fast paced, but I will like say I really enjoy like going and sitting down at a restaurant. Like the food just tastes better sometimes when like, you're just able to relax, not think about it, and just have it like right in front of you. But
yeah, I mean, there's also, I do think there probably is a lot of, again, I think it's getting a lot better from listening to like chefs, but I think there is yelling and stuff, like, but I think you also get the interesting thing, and why you say like I don't get the appeal of it is like becoming a chef is like not an easy thing. You get paid dirt for a long time. It's not like it's not a lucrative thing. So people who do it are people who love cooking and like can't operate any. They're not people who are like, I just don't get it. They're like, I don't know what else I would do, kind of deal. One of those fields, because like it's not for most chefs. It's not like an easy path. There's more interesting paths now where people like build online audiences, and so they don't do the traditional like like line cook, but like most of the like Dave Chang and stuff I know, like you get in at fancy restaurants as like answering phones, and then you wash dishes, and then you become a line cook, and then and you like, it doesn't sound, again, if you don't like, I even love cooking and that sounds miserable to me. Like I'm like, I couldn't do that. Right. But I don't know, I feel like I had another thought, but I'm just off the wall.
Well, it's interesting because people are always going to need chefs. Like they're always needed somewhere. So I guess it's a job security kind of. I mean, the cooking world, you're always going to have a job.
People are always going to want good food. That's for sure.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, there's an interesting, like Dave Chang has a new show on Hulu called like The Next Thing You Eat or something. And it's about like, it's kind of cheesy the way it's done. I love Dave Chang, but it's really interesting content though. It's about like the future of food and automation and delivery and these new plant-based stuff and like that whole thing. And part of when they talk about automation is Dave was worried that like, he was like entry level, like cooking is a job that was always there and like immigrants can do. And like, it's like an accessible like job to get and we always need it. And like, he was worried about automation, like taking those jobs away kind of deal. But it's just like interesting to hear. But there's I do really want to go to some of the restaurants that are like, like 3 Michelin star, like so like the two I always think of, there's Alinea in Chicago is like a famous one. Grant Achatz is the chef, and it's like they're like the like molecular gastronomy or whatever. It's like it's the one where it's like you pay like 300 something to like for the whole course, but like every course is like this is an edible balloon. And this is, like, it's like food that you'd never have, like, just, it's not like, oh, good burger. It's like, and this is this like fancy thing. And it's all this experience and like crazy science. And I've always wanted to do like one of those, or like there's a restaurant in, I think Copenhagen named Noma that's always rated the best restaurant in the world. And I think it was just named the best restaurant again this year. And
that's so much hype.
Yeah. The chef Renee though is like this really interesting, cool guy. Seems very nice. And when you look at their menus, all like seasonal, and dude, that stuff you look at, like, just look at his Instagram. It's insane. He'll be like, so this is actually a pine cone from around here that we can actually fry and like serve. And it actually kind of tastes like this. Like, again, another place that is like, you wouldn't recognize like any of the things is like food almost. But it's like, it's this whole nother level of like, I've always wanted to like experience that. Cause like, again, you think this is like the best rated restaurants in the world, but you also like look at that stuff and you're like, how? It's like pine cones, man. It's fine.
Wait, that's insane. Actually, I do appreciate that when like, restaurants do like kind of branch out a little bit. And like, this kind of reminds me of like, so in Savannah, there's this restaurant called The Gray. And it's my cousin, she's the manager there, but the chef was on Top Chef or Chef's Table. She was on Chef's Table.
I think she has a new master class or something.
Yeah.
I saw like a new master class and it was, I think she was from The Gray.
She's really good. And it was cool because like whenever I would go there, like it's a pretty pricey restaurant, but like they would always have new things on the menu all the time. And like beef tongue was one of them. And it's just super interesting, like how like quote unquote fancy restaurants have like all this like, they like make something out of nothing. Essentially, they make something out of something that you would never imagine eating.
It takes something that like I feel like is just like something you do, cooking, and turns it into a little bit of an art form, which I think that's where the like like I don't want to go somewhere that's fancy just for the sake of being fancy, but if it's fancy but creative, that's where it's at.
There's like musicians who are really great singers, but then there's like another level on top of that of like artists who are like coming out with story. And like I feel like Joe said, maybe there's that in like this world of like
Makes sense.
The next level. We're extreme openness to what is food. You know, just like
right.
I've tried after like getting into cooking, I try to like set that thing of like you have to try everything once. Like even things where you're like, that sounds disgusting.
I will say the only thing I would never ever try, I probably will never try, is I don't know where they have it, Thailand maybe. They have like tarantulas on a stick.
I'll send you some, man.
I'll send you some. I would never eat that in my entire life.
I'll send you some. You'll love it. This time next year, you'll be sitting on a podcast with a bag of them just crunching. Just, I love these new tarantula treats.
One moves.
Yeah, like live stuff eating.
Oh my god. Oh, I don't know how that is a thing. I don't know if people do that. That is bizarre to me.
Yeah, I don't know. There's an interesting too. There's I think it's a 3-star Michelin restaurant in New York. I'm blanking on the name, but the chef just took the entire menu vegan. And so it's like the only Michelin starred restaurant to go fully vegan.
Whoa, that's crazy.
That's like interesting, you know, some interesting stuff. But I mentioned like the chef show on Netflix, which is Jon Favreau and Roy Choi. That's like really great to watch. I don't love a lot of the cooking competition shows, but like
I tried. Like I watched Chopped for a while, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of fun," but then it's just all the same. And the critics are the worst part about the whole.
Yeah, but
I like watching the food, but
the only one I will recommend people watch if they're interested at all is The Final Table. It's like it's like truly top tier chefs, and they're paired together. And there's like 8 episodes, and every like challenge is around a different like cuisine, like tacos, or like a different country's cuisine. And that's super good. And also like it is shot beautifully for just for just like a room of people who are doing it. It is shot. It's crazy.
Is it Bo Burnham-esque?
Yeah, I mean, one of the shots is like when it's like it's like this week's challenge is the egg, and it's just like an egg with like a spotlight on it, and there's like one stand, and like you can see like the silhouettes of everyone behind it. It's crazy, but it's like,
check that out. That's funny.
You have to. It's actually so good, and it makes you like. They always have like a guest judge every week, and sometimes it's like actually like a world-renowned chef, or they have one, and then sometimes like Dax Shepard was it one week, and like
nice.
It's like it's always super interesting. But I would recommend checking that one out as like, even if you don't like cooking shows, that might be
okay.
Yeah, but there's so many good like interesting like the next wave of food. Like I mentioned, like Dave Chang's Hulu show, and there's like any of Dave Chang's Netflix, like Ugly Delicious and all this stuff. I mean, yeah, it's just crazy of like we think of what food is, and then different parts of the world have different things of what normal is to them. And like you just start learning all this, and it's just crazy what how much is out there to like how much before it's like this is food, and then you're like, oh my god, there's all of this.
And that is fascinating. Like I wish I just knew all that already, but like because like there's a few times where like over the past couple of years I'm like, oh, like I could get into cooking, that'd be kind of fun and it'd be useful. But I'm like, every time I like kind of tried, I'm like, I don't really feel like doing this. I don't want to do this.
Useful again, you have to eat. So
that's true. Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's my thing. When I'm hungry,
here's my thing. Do you?
I never eat. No, here's my thing. When I'm hungry, I don't want to spend an hour and a half on making a nice dinner. I would rather just cook something on the stove for like 5 to 10 minutes and eat that. I'm okay with that.
I need to like plan ahead. If I'm going to cook, which is rarely, I'm usually that like I'm hungry now. So I want to eat now. Like if I'm cooking, I'm going to nibble while I'm cooking. And then by the time I'm done, I'm not hungry anymore.
I do that all the time.
Exactly.
You're like full by the time you're done.
And who makes a meal when you're not hungry? That's the thing.
I do, man.
You do? You don't eat it though. You just make it. I love
food. No, I mean, because I don't need to be that hungry to eat food. For sure. You never just are like, well, I should just eat this because like I'm not starving.
That's what snacks are for, man. That's what
I'm like pretty anti-snack though. I'm not a big snack person.
I thought you were a snack person.
It's because I try not to be, because I think in my genes I'm a nosher. So like if things are around, I'll just constantly eat. So I like actively am like no snacks, because otherwise it's just like Joe said, even when you make the meal, I do it. So like if it's just all day, I'm like get to the end of the day and I'm like, I just had garbage all day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But and then there's DoorDash at 3 a.m. You know, like sometimes before you go to bed, you have to order some DoorDash, and then you wake up to it in the morning.
I will say that I've been doing 2 nights in a row last weekend. So, and then I ate it. So one was Taco Bell. Friday night was Taco Bell. I woke up, ate it, felt really sick. You're not supposed to leave Taco Bell outside, you know, for 8 hours in the cold. And then
it's fine, man.
I think I told you guys about this. The second one was calzones, and one of the boxes was empty. Squirrel definitely got to it, and I got to eat the other part. So,
oh well, that's good.
Somewhat of a win-win.
That's good.
Yeah.
I was gonna say though, you should, you know, a lot of this I mentioned is Dave Chang, the chef, who you'd actually really like, because his actual thing is like, his thing is like, at home, I do not want to cook. I want to take every shortcut there is. So like he just had a cookbook come out with Priya Krishna, I think, like last week, that's cooking at home, but it's like all about like shortcuts. And he released this cookware called Any Day that is purely for microwaving, and he will like microwave everything. Like he is like the you know, really like kind of like world-renowned chef, but he like when he cooks at home and he talks about cooking at home and is like, I will microwave everything. I have all these meals that I make in like 15 minutes. Like,
dang.
So really, you know,
well, here's the thing, we don't have a microwave, so
you could buy a microwave, man.
No, man, we're a toaster oven family.
You could buy a microwave.
It's a hard line between toaster oven and microwave.
Yeah, we've tried to mix the two. We've tried to put things in the toaster oven that should be microwaved, and they just don't turn out good at all.
Well, yeah, of course, man. But again, you're complaining about time over here, and I'm saying the solution. I don't love the microwave, but if you want fast things,
yeah, but you can make mac and cheese that takes like on the stove. It takes like not even 10 minutes. Maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
There's things you can buy within a microwave. Like I make stir fry every day, essentially. And that takes, from beginning to eating, it takes about maybe 20 minutes.
I know, that's great, man. That is what I'm saying. You're the one who was saying that you don't want to take a lot of time. So I said, there's a microwave. And then you were like, well, I don't need it. And I'm like, okay, well, then you don't need it.
Jesse, I'm fighting my own point. I'm arguing with myself.
You flipped in the middle. But anyways, I think there's a wave, to your point, coming of people being like, no one wants to cook for an hour and a half, you know? And so like in the world of like learning to cook and stuff is like, yeah, how can we cook really good, like nutritious food fast and easy? So it's not a pain for people.
Sounds right in my alley. But here's the thing. I'm not opposed. If I'm really hungry, I'm not going to make an hour and a half meal. But if I'm like in the zone, I'm like, oh, this is going to taste good. You know, maybe for like a nice dinner or something, I'll spend the time and do it. But on average, I probably won't. But I want to learn more about this. Like I want to be more educated. Like I'm open to the idea of learning more about it. But it's like not the top of my list. But I'm not like closing anything off.
Well, I will say, and what is better than like in Portland, when my favorite thing is when we just had nothing to do at night. Maybe you took an edible and we're like, well, let's make something, you know, with like no plan. And we're like, right, you know, we like walk to the grocery store and I was like, Rice Krispies are like when we made healthy Dunkaroos, quote unquote, you know, but like that stuff is so fun to me. Obviously, it's a little different than like making a meal. But
no, I really enjoyed that. That was one of my favorite parts.
Yeah,
nothing
we
made
better
cookies
than that.
Munchies
for my
cooking.
work.
Yeah.
Like the cookie contest for my work. That was really fun. We made like a zombie graveyard cookies. That was really fun.
That was the best. And we had JoJo making like the backup, you know, because she was like, this is going to be horrible. And so she was like, I'll make something that'll actually taste good. You guys run wild with this.
That was a good time. That was fun. I do enjoy that though. I do like, I think it's more with like, I don't know if I would ever do that. It's more fun with like with you or like, you know, it's more fun with someone with doing it with someone.
I mean, there's that part. I mean, it kind of like in the movie when he was like, this is how I like connect with people. Like, I feel like the fun part of cooking is the like, whether you're cooking with other people or you're cooking for other people and like you invite people over and then like you're, you know, like food is such like a social thing, you know, like that whole experience, whether it's cooking or just eating it. Like that's obviously like the super cool part and really fun. And like I think, I think it's one thing too, like I wish it was taught more to kids, and like or like you just learned that life skill younger and grew up around it. Like when you see the kids who really grew up like in the kitchen with like maybe one of their parents, or like gardening, or like that whole thing, it's so insane by the time they're like 18 how just like comfortable and or with food they are, and like around, and how knowledgeable and stuff. And like most kids graduate, right, and we're like go off to college, and you're like, I know how to make microwave mac and cheese, and that's it. Like they're like, isn't this like you said, you have to eat? Shouldn't you be like equipped with some life skills? But most people,
I think you're totally right. Like I think it definitely should be teach to more younger kids, because like think about all the people do you know, like I don't know personally, like I've obviously met some chefs, but friend wise, like I don't have any, like I feel like you don't meet a lot of chefs. Like there needs to be. I mean,
they're probably busy. Like I mean, like
that's true.
Hours and
you work like nights and weekends. Sucks.
It's crazy.
But it's I don't know. It's interesting, and even probably along the lines of like getting, like people to eat healthier. If
that's true.
A lot of it is being like not having accessible options.
I mean, I'm always open to like, if I like something, if someone can go, I can make that, but healthier, I'm all about that.
Dunkaroos.
Case in point.
Great case in point.
to give a little backstory, me and Jesse made homemade Dunkaroos when we were in Portland, and I think it was like a gram or two less sugar than the real ones. It was technically healthy Dunkaroos.
I feel like, I couldn't remember what it was, because I remember one night we've been looking for Dunkaroos forever, and they like, it was when they weren't making them again. And we're like, we'll make them. And it was, did we just put less sugar in? Or did we like,
we put a little less sugar in.
Just slightly less. We like ran out of sugar, and we were like, perfect.
It wasn't on purpose that we made healthy Dunkaroos, but
breakfast of champions, man. Breakfast cookies.
Oh yeah, Milano's. Shout out.
Shout out, Milano's. Sponsor us.
That would be amazing.
All this fun like kids food that we grew up with is coming back. So
I know. Yeah, it's true.
Dunkaroos.
Do we want to get into ratings?
I was about to say, I really enjoyed that this just launched into a food podcast, but maybe let's wrap the movie part up.
Oh, right, the movie. Jesse, you kick us off. You start.
All right, I'll go. Maybe I'll tell myself I just like can't do decimals from now on, because that is the part that
I only do halves and fulls. I never do like. I think
that's a good rule.
Yeah.
It gives me decision paralysis. We're going 9.
Wow.
We're going 9.5. Honestly, I'm gonna bump this up.
Yeah.
I was just so happy with how it held up, because I had such a good memory of it. I loved it so much. I was getting really into cooking at the time, so I loved it. I was hoping it would hold up. I just remember it being a movie where I watched it so many times, because it was just one you can like, once you've seen it once too, and you know the story, you can just throw it on. Like you said, there's good music. Do you want to?
I just want to say, this came out in 2014. Tusk came out in 2014. We both revisited it and hoped that these movies would live up to how they are today. This one still works. Tusk was not successful.
Two very different paths they took.
They're diverging.
Jon Favreau's other 2014 hit, Tusk.
It'd be way better.
It would be. And Kevin Smith's version of Chef. I'm sorry, it'd be really bad. But I'm going 9.5 again. Like, just great movie. You can throw it on. Makes you feel good. Good feel good. Makes you want to cook. Like it's just shot cool. So like just having it on too. It's like good music. Looks cool. There's even it was funnier than I thought. I remembered it being a good movie, but I didn't remember even like the small joke parts being as funny as they were. So it's all a good time, man. And like I say with most of the movies I like, they're just like worlds that I want to be in. Like I like to just have movies that I can put on and not really pay attention, because it just feels like I'm in the world. It's like found something someone had sent me a while back that was like a cartoon of like someone listening to a podcast next to like cutouts, of people, and it was like, this is what listening to a podcast feels like you feel like you're in the group. Like I love podcasts because you feel like you're in the conversation. You're just not talking.
Totally. Yeah.
So yeah, this movie, I don't know why it's not a 10, but
there's not that high.
I have no clue. It just sounds scary to name it a 10, but it's pleasantly surprised. Great soundtrack, great actors, funny.
Yeah. What
good
else do you want?
Food, good feel good. Who doesn't need a good feel good movie? So 9.5 grilled cheeses.
Nice.
Grilled cheesies.
Love it. Joe?
I will go 8.9. I really enjoyed this.
9. I love that. I just love the decimals.
Gotta have the decimal. Otherwise, it's just always like 7s or 8s.
Yeah, it's the tough choice. That's why I went to decimals in the first place, and then I got too caught up in decimals.
The cuff choice.
I'll be back to decimals soon. Don't worry.
Yeah. What? 8,
I want to get you a shirt
Cubanos.
that says like, Cubanos. Nice. I want to get you a shirt that says like 8, 9, 5, 6, 3, 4, like your rating.
like my movie rating. It just wraps around the entire shirt.
Yeah. That would actually be hilarious. Cool. 8, 9. That's great. I'm going to actually bump my rating up. I was at an 8, but I'm going to be at an 8.5 based on this conversation. I think you're right, Jesse. I really don't think there's anything wrong with this movie. It's just not a 10 for me, but I don't know. Yeah. It's a great length. It's quick. It doesn't linger on anything. The story's great. Cast is great.
Yeah, it moves fast for how long it is.
Fast, yeah. And look, the food looks amazing. Like it's really well shot. I will say, when I was in Portland, when I was working, we did a video for, I don't know if you were at this time or not, but Joey Restaurants.
Yeah, I wasn't. I remember it.
Okay.
Joe and Joe were working on a project for Joey Restaurants.
Yeah, it was crazy. But it was basically we shot all this food. It's like a nice high-end restaurant. I think there's 2 of them, maybe one in California and one somewhere else. But basically they shot all this stuff, and it just reminded me of working on that video because it's like all these beautiful food shots, and that was a fun one to work on. And I just like that, just like reminded me of this a little bit, or that the movie reminded me of that a little bit. And yeah, I just love it. And food stuff's great. It's something I want to explore more for sure. Like every time I see something cooking, like a cooking channel or cooking movie or something, I'm always like, you know what, that's a whole nother world that I have no idea, what goes in that. But it's always fascinating to me. Obviously I love food, and like you said, Joe, I love going out to eat. It's such a fun experience. Yeah, 8.5 tweets.
There you go, all them tweets,
all them private messages.
But yeah, I think this is solid, and I kind of love when he freaks out at the critic. I think that's important, because if that actually happened, I personally would be more inclined to see that, to go to that guy's restaurant or food truck, because like he's got such a personality, and he clearly is passionate about something. I'd be like, oh, you're like the famous guy who gets mad at the critic on the internet.
I've been waiting to talk to this prick for a long time. Okay. I am not cloying. I am not needy. I don't care what you think. You're not getting to me. I'm not needy. Chocolate lava cake is not just undercooked chocolate cake. That's not what makes the center molten. You take a frozen cylinder of ganache and you set it in the ramekin so that as the outside cooks fully, the inside becomes molten. Okay. It's fucking molten, see? It's fucking molten, you asshole. And you don't do anything. What do? You sit and you eat and you vomit those words back to make people laugh. You know how hard I work for this shit? Do you know how my whole staff works? What sacrifices I make to make you happy, and then you just smugly just fucking shit on my shit?
Okay.
It hurts!
Yes.
It fucking hurts when you write that shit. It hurt you.
It does. It does.
He thought you were gonna close his fucking restaurant down. You asshole.
I don't know. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I
was just gonna say, and the way he flips out isn't just like "F you, you suck."
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey man, that hurts. Like even at the end when he comes back, it still keeps going back to not just like screw you, but he's like, that hurts, man. Like that sucked, kind of deal. Like you hurt me,
right?
And you're like, it becomes more and more like, like empathetic. Yeah, like you're like, oh yeah, you like you're like, oh yeah, that would suck if I was you. Like that would be really hurtful, kind of.
Right. And then that brings me back to my point where I said, like, he was like, you're just trying to bash the food I make, like blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? That's actually a good way to respond to a critic, like who's just like shitting on you. It's like, and you could tell he didn't know what to say. He was just like, oh yeah, I don't know why I'm rating it like this. I don't know. Like, I feel like he doesn't really know. I feel like he has this standard. I don't know.
Well, he even said that at the food truck in Austin, or we're at the end there. He was like, I mean, I thought we were just going back and forth, and like he didn't, you know.
Oh yeah, on Twitter.
Right. Yeah, I did like that arc though with the critic too. I think that was kind of cool. And they opened a restaurant. I love that. That was a really cool ending. I thought it was a perfect ending. So
yeah,
great movie.
big. I remember seeing a lot about that, just like in terms of anyone who like, especially like makes art or something, or like creates and puts into the world. There's a lot of like people, I think it was like Brunett Brown and maybe Chase Jarvis and stuff, were saying like, you know, like remember whose opinion you care about, and like if they're not also in the arena, like fighting the fight, like take that into consideration with the criticism, because it's easy to criticize from the sidelines, kind of deal.
Totally. No, that's so
like,
true. Yeah.
You know, like if you're putting stuff out, you're way more empathetic when you see other people put stuff out, because you know, realize how scary and stuff it is. And you're like, yeah, it's easy to sit on the side and be like, that sucks.
Yep. No, totally. I mean, that's like, I don't know. I've come to realize over the past like few years, like, especially like, I mean, obviously you grow and mature as you get older, but like, I don't know. This is like, I look back at some tweets from like 2013 or 14. And I'm like, this was the worst movie I've ever seen, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't like that. Like if I saw that, something of my work, if someone said that, I'd be like, damn, that hurts. Like I feel like in like even sports, I'm always like, you know, like screw the Chiefs. Obviously I don't like the Chiefs, but like, obviously I don't want them to like get hurt or anything. Like I want them to still play well. Like it's still fun to watch. It's just like the nature of not liking things, but
it's like the team mentality in sports. It's like, but it's not like, yeah, I don't truly hate the individuals who are on the team.
No. Like exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or it's like, I don't know. I always try to, if I tell people I don't like a movie, I don't want to like, if someone's go, I love this movie, I'm like, yeah, I don't like that movie. I don't want to just do that. I want to be like, I don't like it, but I appreciate that you like it. And I get why you like it. I just don't.
You are really good about that.
I'm trying to be, because I used to not be good at that. Like when people recommend movies, I'm like, no, I don't want to watch that. I don't like that director, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, open your mind, be more chill.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to be better at that.
Because it is fun sometimes, you know, like especially with this podcast, like sometimes like I'll say like for the Tusk episode for me, it's fun to sometimes just go fully commit to the like, I'm going to do the bit of this is the worst movie I've ever seen.
But to be fair, it wasn't, I mean, I'm going to criticize I'm going to probably be a hypocrite, but it's not a good movie. Like I'm
going to hold it there. I'm just using it as an example.
It is fun to like bash and that. It is fun to like bash things, but not offend anybody.
Not like in a like it's like you can say you don't like something without like offending somebody. Like you know, you should be able to just be like, didn't like it.
Like I think of Paul Scheer and Jason Mantzoukas' podcast. They just like talk about bad movies. Well, bad movies. Like they talk about the bad parts of movies essentially. Like Spider-Man 3, they do a whole episode of Spider-Man 3, and it's like it's just fun. Like I still like the movie. I like their opinions. I'm just like, it's good. It's
but they're wrong.
But I don't think they're wrong all the
Yeah.
There's a weird line though with that for sure.
Yeah. But I'm just saying like when you're doing it, sometimes it is like for the comedic act of doing it, even though it is bad, it's rooted in
right.
You know,
but then again, it all stems from you need criticism to do better,
to grow.
For example, I love criticism. Like with my work, like I don't like when I turn in a first cut and everyone's like, oh, this is great. I'm like, no, tell me what I need to do better. Like tell me what I need to improve on.
Yeah.
So it goes hand. It's weird. I don't know. There's like a line.
Yeah, you need both, and there's a weird line.
The basis of this whole conversation is we need critics. We don't want critics. We don't need critics, but we also need critics.
I think that's said very well. I think there's the podcast episode title. I'm going to re-listen to that episode with that critic, A.O. Scott, and I'm going to send it to you guys.
Please do.
I think there's some interesting stuff, and your 3 favorite movie critics will be back next week.
I was going to say, we're like, literally a critic podcast. We're literally reviewing movies.
Do we have movie news to get into? Is there anything been new?
I'm trying to think new movies.
I'm trying to.
Sorry, go for it.
No, I'm actually not entirely ready. We watched a movie, but I gotta figure out what the name was. So go ahead.
We've been watching the Godfather Trilogy because Jojo hasn't seen them, and I actually haven't seen them in a long time. I don't even think I've seen all of them, but we're on the third one right now. First two are so good. I don't know if you guys have seen them. Godfather.
I've only seen I feel like parts of them.
They're really they're long. The second one's 3 hours and 20 minutes. The first one's like 3 hours, and they're really, really long. But I will say they don't feel super long if you're like right in the right mindset, because like there's so much going on, so much character development. They're really good movies. If you're looking just to like, I know a lot of times you just want to throw a movie on, but you have to be really invested in these stories. So like if you're looking to just like zone in for like a few hours, good movies to watch. But if you're not looking to like learn about really these characters, or like, I don't know, they're just, it's not like a movie you just throw on, in my opinion. I mean, you probably could if you've seen it a couple times, but if it's your first watch, you're not gonna.
Yeah, you gotta pay attention.
Be lost right away.
Right. Trying to think what else. What other movies came out? Oh, the new Batman trailer came out and looks so good. Oh my gosh.
It's looking visually very.
Who's the Batman?
Well shot.
Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson.
Robert.
It looks, and Paul Dano is playing the Riddler.
Battis.
Rob Pattinson.
And who's the villain?
Paul Dano is playing the Riddler.
Oh,
which is going to be awesome. And then Zoe Kravitz is Catwoman, and Jeffrey Wright is Commissioner Gordon, and I love him, and he's going to be so good.
Interesting.
Oh, and Colin Farrell's playing the Penguin, but you can't even tell because his makeup is so, you don't even know it's him. It doesn't look anything like him. The makeup's incredible.
I really like Colin Farrell as an actor.
He's so good. Yeah.
So good. Interesting. All right. It
looks amazing. And apparently, I don't know much about it, but apparently from what I've been reading, it's like a very detective noir film. So like a lot of it's going to be kind of a voiceover of Bruce Wayne. He's going to be kind of narrating. It's like detective style. I'm pretty excited about it. It looks amazing.
I almost, speaking of Paul Dano,
I think either way.
I almost picked Little Miss Sunshine.
Oh,
for the movie.
That's a fun one.
I like. Yeah, I just remember like that's another one I have such a good memory of, and like I liked it, but I haven't watched it in forever. And I watched the trailer again to be like, should I pick this? But it didn't go with it. But it was like,
you should pick it at some point. I watched it for my first time last year, so.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really good movie.
It is really good. Really bizarre.
Paul Dano's so underrated in my opinion. I think he's such a good actor, and I want to pick this at some point, but it's really dark. Prisoners. He's in that movie, but it's I don't know. He played a younger version of Brian Wilson in Love and Mercy, the Beach Boys movie, like the biopic, and he was so good in that movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good.
Mm-hmm.
So the movie I was trying to remember the name of was the Andy Samberg and one of his movies, Palm Springs.
Oh yeah,
the one that came out at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah,
about being stuck in time. And I really
like that movie. She really enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
Christine Milioti,
the girl
in it.
Yeah,
I really like her too. Anytime she pops up in anything, I think she's really good.
Yeah,
I Met Your Mother. She's the mother.
Oh really? Spoiler alerts.
The show's been out for years, man.
Oh no, dude, I just saw it.
Speaking of that, How I Met Your Father is coming out, which is very weird. Hilary Duff, isn't it? I think. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that sounds
if
familiar.
That's any good?
Another, but is this like geared towards like who's the target audience for this one?
I have no idea.
The same people who watch How I Met Your Mother, or like the kids of that, or
I have no idea. I don't know anything about it really, so I don't know. I'm really excited about that House of Gucci movie with Adam Driver and Lady Gaga. Have you guys seen that? The trailer?
No,
it's about Gucci and like how he started. It looks really good.
So truly of the House of Gucci.
It's literally House of Gucci. Yeah.
Oh,
and Adam Driver's playing. Oh, it's gonna be so good. It looks amazing.
That sounds great.
And then I'm trying to think what else.
I still admit, I don't know why this popped in my head. Because Nicholas Braun, the actor, popped in my head, but I still want to see the Zola, that A24.
Oh yeah,
that came out a while ago. It was supposed to be really good,
Mhm.
and then I just never saw it anywhere again. But I want to go watch that.
Yeah, I do want to see that actually. A24. So
they have some auctions going. I think
I saw. I'm never gonna ever afford anything, be able to afford anything, but like the May Queen dress from Midsummer went for like, I don't know, 15,000 or something like that. I think like Ariana Grande bought. I think she got that actually.
Interesting.
Pretty sure she wore it for Halloween one year when she got it. So I think I assume that she got it because she had a dress and she can afford it. So
if she's listening and you want to just send and you still have that dress and you'd like to send it to Joe, you can DM us. We'll get you the address.
We might get back to you. We'll see. We're pretty popular.
We'll see.
So.
We'll pay for shipping. We'll pay like the $10.
Also, Stranger Things trailer came out. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. The new teaser trailer came out for the 4th season. It comes out in spring. It's like a spring break season.
I had not.
Interesting. I've not caught up with that. I need to. I don't even remember where I stopped watching.
Much, to be honest, it's all solid.
It just was one of those things that. Yeah, but I don't know why. It's like the first was so good, and I don't know why I never kept. It was when I was visiting Portland before I moved, and I think when I was staying with you, and we just every night you made me watch 2 of them because it had just came out, and you wanted to rewatch it.
It's really, I think it's fun. It's one of those shows where it's we were talking about this yesterday actually, where it's you might not be into that whole world, you might not love it, but I feel like I've never met anyone who's oh, I don't like Stranger Things. Everyone at least like some part of it, at least whether it's the actors, the 80s vibe, or whatever, anything.
Yeah, people who don't like usually just oh, it's a little too spooky, kind of. Yeah, I'm it's not even not it's bad, but yeah. I also Stranger Things. Noah Schnapp. My favorite. He's Will, right?
Yeah, he's the best, in my opinion, the best actor.
Yeah, he's the best. And he's also, before I had seen Stranger Things and I came to visit, and I think it mainly was just JoJo was you remind me of Will. He just reminds me of you in the show. And then I watched the show and he just disappears right away. And I was the character who just disappears right away is the one who reminds.
And you get possessed in the 2nd season.
Yeah. But anyways, I do love Noah.
He's really good. Yeah.
And he just launched a company called TBH that is a better for you Nutella brand. So it's healthy Nutella.
Healthy Nutella.
Talking about healthy alternatives. It's called TBH. I've not tried it yet, but will. But that's Noah's a co-founder. So that? A little shout out, little free promo for TBH.
I'm okay with that. Oh, I did post this on the Instagram, and this is going to be over when this comes out, but I'll announce it anyway. If you're Sex in the City, they're making they recreated Carrie's apartment, and you can stay there via Airbnb. Airbnb is doing a lot of movie location. They did the Scream one in October. They're doing this one. I think they're getting more into we should hit them up.
Yeah.
We
should hit them up.
We've been saying it. Movies can be experienced on more than just a screen.
Dude, if our tagline gets stolen, I'm gonna be so mad.
Mark, here in this podcast, trademark.
Seriously,
it's a great line. It's a great.
It is a great line. All right, I think that's a wrap.